Yeah. Yes, it is. Since I was probably like 12 years old, my favorite comic run on Spider-Man has been the stuff that J.M. DeMatteis did. Look at me. I love this run. This book means everything to me. A lot of the stories in this omnibus are not only beautiful, but they taught me that I wanted to become a writer. And there's not a lot of books that can do that. I grew up reading all sorts of comics, all sorts of Spider-Man stories, all sorts of manga, all sorts of comics like Daredevil and the Avengers. And those stories were all amazing. They taught me some really incredible life lessons. But J.M. DeMatteis taught me that stories can be magic. Sometimes I think to myself, why comics? And books like this remind me. Why comics is because when I read this as a child, I was fucking enchanted. Why comics is because I love stuff like this with all my heart. Now, this far in the review, I've said a whole lot of nothing. So let's get started with this book. We'll crack it open, and we'll see if you guys think it really stands up to the hype. So let's get started. If you guys are wondering about the costume, well, when this video is posted, it will no longer be Halloween, but it was at one point Halloween. As you can see on this cover, we got Spider-Man fighting the Green Goblin, and this is the absolute best cover that they could have ever chosen. We got a lot of issues covered in this. Honestly, the only thing from this you really need is up until you get to this issue right here. This is what wraps up the whole story. This is really everything James DeMatteis wrote. Other than that, you get a lot of great art by Sal Buscema. Is it worth it? Not really. Here's the spine. We got Spider-Man late for school or something. Now, taking out the dust jacket here, we got this big old picture of Spider-Man. Ooh, he's jumping around, man. It's like a buy one, get one free on tacos or something. Spider-Man can't be afforded to miss it. Now, some background in this comic, right? J.M. DeMatteis wrote the story Kraven's Last Hunt, which you absolutely have to read that before you read this book, because this book is all about the ramifications of that. It starts off with this issue called Soul of the Hunter. What this is a response to people who said that his story glorified suicide when it absolutely did not. And in this story, Spider-Man is traumatized from being buried underground like he is in that story. And he comes to terms with the fact that Kraven's death was a last resort and an unfortunate consequence of a decade long of trauma. But this next story right here, oh my God. Sorry guys, this is going to be kind of a terrible review just because I love like every story in here. Like, they're all amazing. This next story is called The Child Within, and it deals with a rat creature called Vermin and how there is a child that was abused and mistreated inside the body of this monster. And Spider-Man's trying to reach him while also having to deal with the fact that Norman Osborn has had a terrible effect on his son Harry, who's making him go crazy again as we speak. So all three of these characters have this deep trauma. Peter from losing his parents, Harry from being abused, Vermin from being abused also. And they're different types of abuse, they're different types of loss, but they all have formed their identities around this loss. And you see here, James DeMatteis has such a great way of paneling. They both have this deep unrest in them, which is causing them to have this terrified, tortured look on their faces. And J.M. DeMatteis is such a good writer that he can communicate this with just Sal Buscema's artwork, which is also amazing. These covers are fucking killer as well. This story is amazing. It deals with the psychology of Spider-Man, the Green Goblin, Vermin. If you like psychology, J.M. DeMatteis is easily the best one for it. He understands these characters, I think, better than any other writer in history. I think J.M. DeMatteis understands the character of Spider-Man, his supporting cast, and how to best use them to tell an amazing story better than any other writer. I'd rather have him than anyone else on Spider-Man presently. And oh my gosh, Sal Buscema's art is just killer. But Spider-Man has to deal with so much loss, so much hatred, so much torture, this cycle of pain and anger and rage that all these people are dealing with. And as you can see, Harry Osborn returns as the Green Goblin to try and kill Peter. Once again, he's just lost his mind. He believes everything his father said and preached to him is real again. He remembers everything, which makes for an incredible dynamic. Here, Spider-Man's being tortured in this graveyard. He's had to face all the people that have died in his life. Spider-Man can lose it too. He's going absolutely insane here as a result of this. And Harry's watching this, and Harry's like, hey, Peter, you all right, man? Like, what's going on? And he's just completely lost it. He's been pushed too far. And he goes to the one person who can help him, Dr. Ashley Kafka. I won't spoil too much of it, of what ends up happening. There's a final battle between Harry and Spider-Man. Ends with the Goblin being so completely shaken. So completely lost. But Peter learns a great, valuable lesson. Let our past lie once we know that it really was harming us and reshaping our actions and informing the type of lives that we lead. And of course, you do still have a lot of comedy in the dark moments. You have this entire issue that is fucking dedicated to frogmen. They're fighting like the White Rabbit or something. Peter goes to this frogman's house. He's like a 16-year-old kid in a residential neighborhood, and he goes and eats dinner, and they fight the White Rabbit, and it's a great time. You got Walrus Man here as well. He's been bitten by a radioactive walrus. And then we get into stuff like funeral arrangements. Funeral arrangements is just a spectacular story. The Vulture feels guilty for the death of someone I will not name, and he's come to ask for forgiveness from her. She says, if you want forgiveness, that's between you and God. You actually see Peter fighting the Vulture right in his living room. And when the Vulture realizes he can't get what he wants Spider-Man to actually just kill him. And of course, Spider-Man's not going to do that. But it's a really heartfelt story. And then we're right back into the Green Goblin stuff, which has just incredible tension. This is the most tension that has ever been in a Spider-Man comic. Even with all the gritty modern stuff, this is still higher than that. Because the Green Goblin gets under Spider-Man's skin in such a way throughout... Oh my gosh, look at that beautiful Charles Vest artwork right there. That's incredible. But throughout this, Harry is telling Spider-Man that he knows his secret identity. He's not going to tell the whole world. Not just yet, anyways. So Spider-Man is being basically mentally tortured this time. His whole life as Peter Parker, as Spider-Man, is holding on by a thread. Now, there are some comics like this that really don't have a relation to the main storyline in here. I would have just preferred those be left out, to be honest. Maybe add in Craven's Last Time instead, so you can have that full story here. We don't need stuff with Venom that wasn't written by Dave Mateus, I don't think. And we get back into the main stuff right here with the character Kuma, who is just this incredibly underrated being who honestly has some of the best fights with Spider-Man and Jerry Conway's spectacular Spider-Man run. And he has a great psychological story here. It's mystical, it's magical, it is just a lot of fun. This really sticks with you. And it's just a hit after hit for each of these story arcs. And you need these stories that are great, but that are different. And then you get back into the vermin stuff. All these creatures, and Spider-Man wants to save them all. Of course, he can't save everyone, but he tries his damn best. And Vermin is just another incredible character. There's nothing but incredible characters here. And that ties up in a really satisfying way. Death doesn't mean quite what you think it is. It's not quite a spoiler, otherwise it'd be a crazy name for a title. Then we have a little team up with the X-Men, which is really fun. Spider-Man's dealing with his parents being brought back to life during this era, so he's trying to balance that as well as battle people like this guy. Great stuff here. I'd say the X-Men story is probably the weakest one, which is crazy because it's just like a standard team up, which is completely offensive and pretty fun. So that just tells you the absolute quality of what's going on here. And when you get back into it, he sees that Harry Osborn has been released and he's right there with his family, menacing him all over again. No one else seems to see a problem with it, which makes Peter feel like he's going insane. And this issue, oh my god. This issue is a fucking masterpiece. It's one of the first ones I read, and it is just gorgeous. This issue is the culmination of the first 200 Spectacular Spider-Man issues, the first 400 Amazing Spider-Man issues. It's the payoff to the relationship between Peter and Mary Jane. And oh my gosh, this scene on the bridge with Harry and Mary Jane talking about their differences, talking about how much things have changed since they were kids, and how they were never quite so innocent as Harry believes them to be, or wants to believe. It's just beautiful. And you get rage, you get all these mixed up emotions between people who used to be the best of friends. And that's what this story is called. It's called Best of Enemies, and it is just magnificently complicated. You get the Green Goblin following Peter around every day when he's just trying to go to work. Here he is scaring the living shit out of J. Jonah Jameson. And Green Goblin's telling Spider-Man, well, there's no law about going around in your Sunday best, Spider-Man. If there was, they would have thrown you in jail years ago. And it's terrifying. It reminds me of one of my favorite movies, Cape Fear, where that's the whole point. Everything that the villain is doing is technically legal, doesn't stop it from being absolutely terrifying. You get into this final climactic battle, and it is a great one. This is all in one issue, by the way. And I won't spoil exactly what happens here. If you've watched the movies, you might have some idea. But it is just an incredibly emotional ending that blows me away and ends an incredible run on Spider-Man. They're not quite as good when you get past the stuff that's written by DeMatteis. I'm not gonna lie to you. You have some absolutely ludicrous moments going on here. I understand why they're here. They didn't want to be abandoning issues. But they're not good. They're just not. And you have Flash Thompson, for example, being written extremely out of character here. Like, comedically so. He basically tells Peter at one point that they were never friends, and they never will be. He tells Felicia Hardy, his fucking girlfriend, the Black Cat, and he's always known she's the Black Cat, that he doesn't actually want to be with her. He wants to be with the Black Cat as a status symbol, which is... Flash Thompson at this point should be a pretty good guy. That's how he's characterized. So it's kind of insane. I don't love it. And then he tells himself, oh, I was just doing that for Felicia's good, because she can't be dating me. And it just doesn't make sense. Let her make that decision for herself, you fucking prick. But these issues, obviously the art is amazing. There's a lot of good stuff too. During this time, Nick Katzenberg, bottom of the barrel paparazzi that meddled with Peter every chance he get, just this moralist individual. Nick ends up going to the hospital and dying. And Jonah has this whole character arc where he realizes that he didn't pay enough attention, not to Nick, not to his wife, not to anything, but fucking Spider-Man. And that's terrible. So for the first time in centuries, he goes to dinner with his wife. And he also has this kind of comedic backup story arc where he hears some people talking mad shit about the Daily Bugle. And he says, what? Not on my watch. We can't have this be the norm. And at one point he even gets robbed. And he's asking, just one thing. Do you read the Daily Bugle? And the burglar is just like, what, that piece of junk? Yeah, I'll read that shit sometimes if I need to laugh. And then Jameson just beats the shit out of that guy. So funny. But anyways, this volume kind of teetered down in quality. They're not as good as the DeMatteis stuff, but that's one of the best Spider-Man runs ever, so you can't really have that be the case. It ends with the introduction of the Clone Saga, which I really like, because there's actually an omnibus for that already. So you want to keep going with the story, you want to read that fucking mess, and you can go ahead and do so.